We are beginning with the category of public safety. And candidates, in this case, all of you will have a chance to answer one of the questions during this set of queries. Our first question comes from Ohio City resident Tessa Schwan.
Do you believe armed law enforcement should be responding to mental health crisis incidents in the city of Cleveland?
Senator, you mentioned having a background in law enforcement. I'll go to you first. Sandra Williams.
Thank you very much for the question. Let me just say this. As a parole officer, I used to go out to homes by myself on a regular basis, and I would find that the situation that I was called out there for by my parolee was actually not something that needed to be handled by law enforcement officers. I definitely think that law enforcement officers need to be in the background, and we need to have mental health counselors as well as alcohol and drug addiction counselors with law enforcement officers when they go out. That is a part of my plan. Right now, that happens in the city of Cleveland from certain hours of the day, not every day of the week and not every hour of the day. I believe that we should have a dual approach. Law enforcement should be in the background, and the experts that handle mental health issues should be the ones addressing that issue. That will stop so many people from being arrested needlessly because they have a mental health condition. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly.
Thank you. When there is a call for service for a mental health consumer, that call for service, they don't know what the circumstances are, and it can be a dangerous situation. The police need to be involved. The mental health professionals, and I am, by the way, I'm a former social worker. I worked in community mental health for over 15 years, and I understand what these calls for service are, the volatility that's there. The police need to be the first responders, but that doesn't mean it has to be our last interaction. Mental health professionals can accompany the police. They can advise, but they shouldn't be first on scene, and it's becoming too easy to say we're going to put social workers on these calls for service. The police are trained to handle volatile situations. Mental health professionals can support that, but it's not as simple as saying that we can make determinations of who should be responding to what calls. Everybody in that equation, from the police, the mental health professionals, the whole community, needs to work together to figure out how to solve that.
Thank you. Mr. Bibb, what say you?
You know, Rick, this is personal for me. Nearly 5 years ago, I lost my cousin, Chris, who was brutally choked to death by his partner who suffered a mental health episode. And it took EMS nearly 40 minutes to show up. And what we've seen all across this country are cities doing their hard work of rethinking what policing should look like. I believe we should have a co-responder model in all of our 5 police districts. In the city of Cleveland in 2016, we did an 18-month pilot in the 2nd district, and we showed that nearly 37% of the 911 calls did not warrant an armed response from police. So it is easy and practical because we actually have done it in the city of Cleveland, and we should follow what Columbus has done and Denver has done as well, and execute a co-responder model in all of our 5 police districts. And as mayor, I also want to add a 4th option to 911 related to mental health. So we do have the right response for the right call, because we can't continue to have a public safety only lens and model to solve the root cause of violent crime and trauma all across our city.
Thank you. Staying with public safety, our next question comes to us from Sam Pierce from Collinwood.
I don't feel safe calling the police for anything. I fear that when I call the police for, say, noise in the neighborhood or whatever, that I actually put my neighbors in danger by calling the police. That this could be an issue that causes the death of one of my neighbors. I'd like to know what you as mayor will do to make people like me feel safe again and rely on those that are supposed to be there to serve me.
An emotional question. Mr. Jones.
That really touches me. Thank you so much for that question. Well, first, we have to become a city where we are focused more on rehabilitation instead of incarceration. And as mayor, I want to create a mobile crisis unit that we understand that over 70% of phone calls are domestic issues. So we have to know that cops are not the only ones who should be solving these problems. Mental health experts are extremely important. But as mayor, I also want to say that if we're going to be successful, we have to understand that adding more cops may not be the solution. And ineffective spending may also not be the solution. We see that we have a general budget of $335 million, and we have added money to this every single year, but yet and still, the city of Cleveland has 3 times the national crime statistics. So more money is not going to be the solution. Community policing, working with the police. So I want to say this is important as well, because our officers put their lives on the line every single day. We should not criminalize great officers. There's a lot of great officers who come to work every single day to do a great job. And we need to make sure that they have the technology and equipment to do their job properly, along with making sure that mental health experts are with them.
Thank you. Mr. Reed.
Well, first of all, you should feel safe calling the police. But second of all, I'm the only one on this stage that has put out on their website for the public to view a 10-point safety plan. A 10-point safety plan that even the plain dealer in the editorial this weekend said Zach Reed has it right. Because when you're calling police, that is reactive. And what you're saying, young lady, we need a police force that is going to be proactive. And that's the reason I've said that we've got to start looking at public safety from a different lens. Let's stop looking at it from a criminal justice lens, and let's start looking at it from what it is. We need to start looking at it from a public health lens. And if we're dealing with the public health lens, then we're putting out violent interrupters, formerly incarcerated men and women that are walking your neighborhood, walking your community, and talking to you, so that we don't have to call the police on every single call. Go to zachreed.com and look at the 10-point plan that even the plain dealer agrees with.
Mr. DeBella.
This is about accountability, accountability, accountability. And Zach's largely right. You know, most of our officers are great, but I'm supporting the Citizens for Safer CLE amendment to make the charter permanent. We need a change in culture. These incidents are tearing apart the fabric, not just of Cleveland, but of the whole country. So I also believe that we need to do a co-responder model, hire more mental health professionals, social workers, code enforcement. If you know you're calling for something that can be dealt with by a code enforcer, then you'll feel more comfortable calling. But this gets toward walking the beat, doing violence interruption, getting to know your local officer as though you would your mail person. But in the end, accountability is the only thing that's going to change the world 5-10 years from now.
Thank you. Our third and final question under the category of public safety comes to us from Chris Martin of Ohio City.
Cleveland has more cops per resident than 93% of cities. Every resident of Cleveland pays $838 for cops every year. We've spent about $6,700 per person over the last decade on police misconduct settlements. Why do you think more cops is the answer?
Mr. Kucinich, why do you think more cops is the answer?
Well, I mean, that's been a central part of my campaign. I say that in the face of a siege of crime affecting so many of our neighborhoods, of drive-by shootings that are terrorizing communities, of gangs that ride wild from east side to west side on dirt bikes and ATMs, shooting guns off. People want to be protected, and they want to make sure that the tax dollars they're already paying go to their safety, but we just don't have enough police. I've talked to police. They're stretched right now. We need more people who can be involved, but they need to be better trained. They need to be racially sensitive, to answer the question from the woman from North Collinwood. They need to be trained in constitutional rights. They need to be better educated generally. But we need more police to be able to fight homicides. We need people in a scientific investigation unit to be able to keep track of the crimes that have been committed and try to hunt down those criminals. Cleveland is one of the most violent cities in America right now. And until we are able to assure people that the public safety of Cleveland can be the first priority of government, people won't have confidence that the government can protect them.
Mr. Kelly, 30 seconds.
The issue of public safety is too important to be irresponsible. You can't throw out a number without any method of getting there. And it's eerily similar. If you look back to 1977, you're promoting 400 officers now. In 1977, you promised 200 new officers, but by August 31st, we were down 138. Homicides were up 27%. Firefighters were down 120, and the police went on strike. We have to be real about this. We can't just throw numbers. We can't politic on this issue. This is too important. We have to succeed on this.
Quickly.
You have been the co-mayor for 7 years, and you've let the police department go down. The reason why we have so fewer police now is directly because you, as city council president, haven't stepped in and demanded more police. Now, look, everyone knows that when I was mayor, I took on the banks, and the banks punished the city for me not selling Muni Light. You cannot compare what happened in '77 to what's going on right now.
Thank you.
I appreciate. I would just welcome any opportunity to.
Let's continue on. Thank you. Senator, same question to you, the original question. Do you think we need more cops, and why?
When I am walking and knocking on the doors talking to voters about this election, I can tell you 99% of the time when I'm talking to a resident, the first question is, what are you going to do about the violence in our community? We are tired of the violence being in our community. And people are also saying that when they do call the police, most of the time they don't show up. That's why there are so many residents right now who are going out to get their CCW license because they don't feel safe in their own community. So I think, yes, we do need more trained police officers on our streets working to reduce the violent crime that we have in the community. I also believe that as the mayor of the city of Cleveland, I need to continue to work with the state legislature to try to close the gun show loopholes that we have in the state of Ohio, get guns off the streets, continue to try to get my red flag legislation passed that will take guns away for those people with mental health conditions in the city of Cleveland. And just to answer the question to the lady before who was there, first of all,
quickly,
for me, sensitivity training is important. Cultural competency training is very important, and making sure that the police force looks like the people in the city of Cleveland. Far too long, we have people coming in our communities who don't understand what it's like, especially to be in the African American community. That needs to change, and that is one way that we can help make people feel safer and reduce violence in our community. And we can get on with education and jobs that will also help us with violent crime.
Thank you all. Thank you all for the give and take. We do intend to have more. We're going to try and hustle through because we have a lot of subjects to get to, but thank you, and we will allow more of that. We're going to move